Hello, I am here today with a review of some tactical pants, specifically the 5.11 Taclite Pros. This is just an assortment of some of the pants I have. I have some 5.11s, True Specs, Blackhawks, and some older 5.11s here on top. But this particular review, like I said, is of the 5.11 Taclite Pros. Get the rest of these out of the way. So, these are kind of these are the pants here. They have a manufactured suggested price of $49.99, but you can find them a little bit cheaper on the internet. 5.11 is the company that sort of started it all. A little bit of history as I understand it. They were initially made for mountain climbing by a company called Royal Robin, which was then sold, and eventually they were started to be marketed to FBI, eventually to police, and then the general public kind of caught on, and they are what they are today. When people think of tactical pants, usually 5.11 is probably the one that they think of the most. Some other companies have come along over the past few years to try and make up for where people felt that 5.11 had a few shortcomings, and there are quite a nice array of tactical pants out there these days. I do also have some Blackhawks and some True Specs as I showed you, and I'll be doing reviews of those as well if you're interested, so stay tuned. But as I mentioned, this review is of the 5.11 Taclite Pro pants. They're wonderful pants. As I mentioned, $49.99 is the retail. You can find them cheaper on the internet. The fabric, 65-35, comfortable. 65-35 polyester cotton. It's a comfortable, durable, breathable fabric. It's 6.5 ounces, I believe. Might be 6, but I think it's 6.5 ounces. They initially had a 100% in cotton pants that they used to started with. This is a pair here I have. I had a couple pairs of them, but a lot of people didn't like the cotton, me included. They were known for fading, wrinkling, and shrinking, all of which I experienced. This is the sort of light khaki color. I don't know if you can pick it up in the camera here, but even this light color is faded, and as you can see, quite wrinkled. 100% cotton, if you got it wet, it would stay wet for a long time. So out in the cold, trudging through the water, it was not a good time for you. Shrinking, I used to have to buy these pants 2 inches long because I would wash them. The first pair I made the mistake and bought them at my normal waist, or at normal length of 30 inches, and they shrunk and I looked dumb in them. And so I started having to buy them long. The Taclite Pros that are the poly cotton blend really seem to hold their size very well. I've not had any problems with them shrinking. So these are the cotton ones. As I mentioned, people were not fond of them. They're also heavier. These are an 8 ounce versus a 6.5 ounce of the Taclite Pros. So I will get these out of the way for the moment. They also had another pair of the style that they came out with. I'm not sure what these were exactly called. This is also a ripstop 65-35 cotton blend. They have a little bit different pocket setup, and the waist was a little bit different. The Taclite Pros have an elastic waist, whereas these have this telescoping waist design I'm really not fond of, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So consequently, I didn't wear these all that much. The pocket setup on these a little bit different in back, and in here through the seat has the double fabric, but again, just didn't like these as much. So moving on to these. I have these in 5 colors: black, charcoal, I believe this is the Tundra. It has a bit of an olive cast to it. Coyote, and I think they call this khaki. Picking out a pair. This is probably the oldest pair I have. I've had these for probably a couple of years. And see if I can go through some of the features of them. As I mentioned, 65-35 cotton, poly cotton blend. Does very well for wrinkling. I've had these, usually I roll these up in my drawer, and as you can see, they really do very well as far as wrinkling goes. I never have to iron them. Material is very soft, nice and breathable. It comes with a DuPont Teflon coating to help resist spills. I found that when the pants are new, they do a very good job of liquids rolling off them. I tested these today. I've had these for a year and a half, I'm not sure exactly how long. And some does still roll off with some water, but a fair amount of it gets absorbed into the fabric. So I think as you wash them, some of that Teflon coating seems to wear off a little bit. The The color in these holds a lot better with this polycotton blend. If you wash them inside out in cold water, I bet they would hold great. I apparently am not into putting that much effort into washing my clothes, and I wash them in warm water with regular side out. And you know, you probably can't see this in the camera here, but there's just a little bit of fading starting here around the seams, but really not enough to complain about. Again, these are probably a year and a half old. I don't mind them at all. I would expect a little bit of wear after that long. I wear some form of these pants probably 4 days a week for work. So no complaints there. The waistband, as I mentioned on these, they have what they call their action waist. Regular material in the back. On each side they have this elastic, which probably gives you about 1.25 inches of stretch, both sides. That way when you're crouching down, going over things, fabric will give. I prefer this design to what some of the other companies have. The older 5.11s have this telescoping, and both the Blackhawks and the True Specs also have that telescoping design, and I really don't care for it as much. I find that it's just too much material up around your waist for my preferences. This, I think, is just a lot more comfortable. I've not had any problems with this elastic giving out and becoming stretched out, so I have no complaints for that. I wish that all the designs would go to this, because it just feels more comfortable, personally. Belt loops. This has, I believe, 7 belt loops. They will hold 1.75 inch belt size. I've noticed that the True Specs actually will hold a little bit bigger belt, and one of the places that comes in handy is if you're wearing a belt, like say the 5.11 operator belt or Wilderness tactical belt, where you loop it through and you Velcro it back around through these hoops. It's a little bit harder to get that belt looped back through here. So I do prefer a little bit larger size belt loops of the True Specs, but certainly not a deal breaker, not that big. On these pants they installed an extra belt loop on the side, so that if you're wearing it with a holster, the holster will probably sit across these 2 loops, and in theory it will hold it in place a little bit better, they say. I don't have any problems with my holster moving around, even wearing it with jeans, so I guess it's a nice idea, but you know how useful it is in practice, I'm not sure. Maybe if you're running with your gun around, I don't know. But that's what they say. Pockets. This has 7 pockets. Actually, one of the fewer number of pockets of all the pants. The side pockets are slash pockets in both directions. They're reinforced here at the corners with Supplex nylon, which is great if you're going to put a knife in it, like this Benchmade Colgera. Just slips right on in there. If you're going to put it in and out of pants that did not have the reinforcement, I think over time, well, first of all, it doesn't even go in as easy versus the reinforcement, although it's up against the seam, so that probably helps, but that reinforcement is very nice for slipping knives, flashlights. You know, sometimes I'll carry a flashlight with it. Great for carrying that sort of thing. The pockets are very deep. These pockets here are about 1 foot deep. Let's see if I can see here. Get an idea. There you go, 11 inches there. 11, almost 12 inches, so quite deep, front and back. You can hold a lot of stuff in these pockets. They have this pocket right here, which you can use for different things. On the earlier design of these pants, depending on which you get, this pocket was not very deep. Only, there you go, a little over 3 inches. Look at that. Not very deep at all. So if you try and put a knife in them, you know, it fits, but there's some space there. It's not ideal. On the newer versions of these pants, like this charcoal one I think is my most recent, this pocket is now it's a little over 6 inches. This knife will disappear in there if you like, or if you want to clip it on the pocket, it fits there perfect. You could also probably put a flashlight in there. How about this Phoenix PD31? You can get that to clip on there nicely in there. Or Again, it will disappear in there. Might even put a big flashlight in there. How about this Phoenix TK15? Look at that. Disappears in there. Not really where I would recommend carrying a big flashlight like that because it's a little hard to get out. But nonetheless, just shows you how big the pocket has gotten. I saw in someone else's video that they mentioned that they put their finger in this pocket and realized there was a seam down here, and they went inside and just undid the seam. What I found though is that you can't do that because here's that pocket on the inside. It's only that big. Whereas on the newer versions, let's find a lighter color. You can see a little better. Newer versions, that pocket is huge. Look at that in comparison. Baby pocket, big pocket. So that's very nice. I'm really glad they made that larger. This light khaki pair is one of the newer ones that I have as well. Moving on with the pockets, they have some side pockets down here. I believe they're 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. 2 Velcros. There's just one single pocket on the inside. I have apparently some gloves from the hospital in there. Some of the other pants from the other brands will have a little bit of elastic in there for holding magazines, but the 5.11 just has just that one big pocket. It will blouse out a little bit if you put something a little bit more bulky in there, and then will lie nice and flat when there's nothing in there.